everybody. Welcome to the Garage, the Court of Public Opinion. Peter Clayton's behind the camera. I'm Jeremy Cordeaux. Thank you for all your feedback and comments. I'm very grateful. Before we get into the stuff of the day, of which there is plenty, there's never a shortage of stuff, I mean. June the 28th. If you're celebrating the day, well, here's one. 1859, the first dog show, very first dog show recorded anywhere in the world, was held at Tyne, T-Y-N-E, Tyne, in England, 1859. Mel Brooks, 1926, American actor, comedian, director. He was so clever, so creative. Get Smart, Blazing Saddles, Young Frankenstein, Spaceballs. I don't think I ever saw Spaceballs. Did you, Pete?
No.
I don't know about that one. But he was born in New York City. He was married to Anne Bancroft for years and years and years. And sadly, I think we made note of the fact, was it last week or the week before, that Anne had died? Anyway, Mel Brooks, 1926. The first US ground combat forces in Vietnam, authorized by President Lyndon Johnson on this day in 1965. And it all began with a couple of consultants that I think it was John Kennedy sent over in 1960. You know, oh dear. Dear, oh dear. 1838, the coronation of Queen Victoria in Westminster Abbey. She was only 18 years old. 1914, Franz Ferdinand, Archduke of Austria, and his wife Sophia are assassinated in Sarajevo by a young Serb nationalist. And that was the shot that was heard around the world. They called that event the shot that was heard around the world, and it was the beginning of World War I. 1919, the Treaty of Versailles, ending World War I on the same day, establishing the League of Nations. Well, that was a flaming disaster, like the United Nations that followed it. Anyway, that was signed in France on the same day, 1914. Mercedes-Benz forms the world's oldest automobile manufacturing, well, I suppose you'd call it a combo, because they merged with a couple of other companies on this day in 1926. And they have gone on over the years, the decades, indeed, may I say, the centuries, from strength to strength. Tomato is proven to be non-poisonous by Colonel Robert Gibbon. He ate a tomato on the steps of the courthouse in Salem, New Jersey, on this day in 1820. The tomato is like, I think the tomato is a bit like the potato. It's deadly nightshade, which is a poison, but, you know, I think you'd have to eat a lot of tomatoes. But they came from the, wherever they came from, tomatoes. Where did they come from? I must look that up. I thought they came from the New World. One of the things that came from the New World. But this was the New World, so you'd have imagined that they'd have had some familiarity or knowledge of tomatoes. Professor Stephen Hawking hosts a party for time travellers at the University of Cambridge on this day in 2009. He did not send the invitations out until the day after the party. He had a sense of humour. These ribs still hurt, Pete. Don't make me laugh. Don't make me laugh. Adolf Hitler flies to Essen, Germany, for the Night of the Long Knives. A lot of people didn't make it through that night. 1934, the saxophone is patented by Adolphe Sax in 1946. The best saxophone player, I think, in the world is a guy called Boots Randolph. And if you Google Boots Randolph, apart from the songs, the music he plays as an instrumentalist, he was the backing saxophone on so many of the songs out of the 50s and 60s you wouldn't believe. Just listening to it makes the thing weep almost. Makes it talk to you. Fantastic. I think he's still with us. 1846, the saxophone was invented. Elon Musk, American entrepreneur and inventor, SpaceX, Tesla, PayPal, born in South Africa, Pretoria, in 1971. The bushranger Ned Kelly is captured in Glenrowan in 1880. The Constitution of Ukraine is signed into law in 1996. And Richard Rodgers, American composer, mostly for theatre, Rodgers and Hart, Pal Joey, Babe in Arms, Rodgers and Hammerstein, Oklahoma, South Pacific, The King and I, The Sound of Music. Wow, Emmys, Grammys, Oscars, Tonys. Amazing. Born in New York City. He died in 1979, but born 1902. Richard Rodgers, the great Richard Rodgers. And one more. John Wesley, English clergyman, Christian theologian, co-founder of the Methodist movement. He was born in Epworth, England. He died in 1791, but born 1703. And as I say, if you remember the day for any reason, I hope it's a really great day. They're all great days. Every one that you wake up on the right side of the grass is a good day. Waterhouse. I bet you there are a couple of days in the recent past they probably had trouble waking up and facing the day. But anyway, Waterhouse are scrambling to restructure their company. Well, you know what I think of consultants. I think they're fine, no problem. I never liked using them with my radio stations. I believed that all my people had the right stuff. We didn't need to bring people in from outside, but it's amazing the number of people who come knocking on your door saying, we are the answer to a maiden's prayer. We will do things with your business that you can't even imagine. Yes, like charge you $500 an hour or something. Oh, no, worse, $5,000 an hour. Anyway, nothing wrong with people earning a living. I've got nothing against that. But as a taxpayer, I don't want governments employing consultants when we've got a huge, well-paid, intelligent, capable public service already at foot. You know? They're there to do the job. Let them do the job. Anyway, PricewaterhouseCoopers, getting back to them, they're going to restructure. Well, I've got to ask this company that is paid literally hundreds of millions of dollars to advise people as to procedures and structures and strategies, brought to this crisis point in their history by whom? Themselves. And they finally decide to do something about the situation. And it turns out that they have sold the government advisory part of the business for $1. Okay. How can they possibly hold their head up high and say, let us advise you on how to run your business? I don't get it. Anyway, have you noticed the government seems to be adjusting the Yes campaign for the upcoming referendum? Number one, yesterday I think it was, they have shown that they certainly won't get the popular vote, and they certainly will not get the vote from the states, because with a referendum you have to not only be across the line with the popular vote, but you have to carry the states. You've got to carry every state, and that's just not going to happen. But why I bring it up is that I've noticed that they don't mention the voice as often as they used to. They use the word recognition. Recognition. The voice, you see, is now provoking questions that they can't or don't want to answer. You see, I imagine in the beginning they thought that the word voice was very clever. I mean, who is going to deny anyone a voice? That'll get up all right. Of course it will. And instead of telling people what they're voting for, when we get the voice in, the voice can then say anything that we want it to. But I always knew that they wouldn't find it that easy. We are not that stupid, Prime Minister. And speaking of Anthony Albanese, have you noticed that he adjusts what he says about the voice, or the recognition, as it's fast becoming known as, depending on the audience in front of which he is standing? Those people want us to sign a blank cheque, which of course no one should ever sign. One of their favourite calming disclaimers is the voice will only be consulting on things that affect the Aboriginal people. Now, what they don't tell us is, of course, everything the government debates, the executive implements, everything affects everyone. All legislation, every governmental decision affects Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal people in the same way. So if they win with this voice thing, they will clearly have the right to argue and discuss an Aboriginal point of view on absolutely everything. And we're talking about 3% of the population with that much influence. Can you just imagine the chaos, the logjam, the confusion that could ensue? Parliament and government would be unworkable. It's all so silly. But why are they pushing it? These people are not stupid. Something is going on, ladies and gentlemen. But when you think about it, what we have here, right now, one man, one vote. We all have the same access to either voting for a politician or becoming a politician, or petitioning a politician, or approaching a politician. Make an appointment with him or her at the electoral office. No problem. No one should be treated differently, particularly on the basis of race or skin colour. It's racist, it's patronising, but most important of all, it's dangerous. And if you doubt what I say, I can't play it for you because I can't find it on a compatible, what do you call it, Pete? File. Format, file. This guy, Thomas Mayo, he's a big man. He is one of the signatories of The Voice. He's been there with the thing from the heart. He's the Uluru Declaration from the heart, all of that. He is a prime mover in the whole thing. I have seen this tape, which has been sent to me by a few people. If you Google it, you will be as horrified as most who have seen it, because it will leave you with no doubt in your mind as to exactly what they are planning. Try and find that. Thomas Mayo. And the amazing thing to me is that all of this stuff that he is saying about honouring the elders of the Communist Party and how he's going to dismantle the world as we know it, or society as we know it, he's standing there right beside the Prime Minister, who says nothing to him, doesn't correct him, doesn't reprimand him. Very, very enlightening. But here's one thought, though. If you believe the government when they say this voice will only have effect on things that are already connected or directly connected to Aboriginal people, I say, of course, that Everything affects Aboriginal people and non-Aboriginal people in the same way, as I just said. But let's say the government is right, and there is a separate department, a compartment for Aboriginal people and their issues, quite isolated from the rest of the country, which is nonsense. What they would be saying, ladies and gentlemen, is that we have, and they want, apartheid. Pure and simple. Two separate nations, which would go, of course, with the two separate flags, I guess, which, as you know, if you watch my Court of Public Opinion, I'm vehemently against. But we don't want apartheid. Why do they? What could this government be thinking of? What is the real plan? The real game? Is it, as some say, a Trojan horse, hiding an Aboriginal treaty, a demand for a percentage of the Australian GDP, that's the wealth of the country, to which, by the way, they only contribute 0.4%. I don't know if you heard, but in Western Australia, a mining company has closed down a prospecting site because the Aboriginal people with whom they were negotiating said they would only give it the thumbs up if they got a percentage of that which the miners derived from it. So you go do the work and we'll take a percentage. I don't think they specified in the story I saw the actual percentage that they wanted. But the mining company said no, closed it down. They'll keep the rights to it, knowing full well, of course, that every mining venture has to incorporate royalties to Aboriginal people, and I think that's fine. But the agenda worries me, the possible agenda, the bigger picture. Perhaps every landowner, if you look at this Thomas Mayo thing, you'll see exactly what I mean. Every landowner ordered to pay rent or a special levy or tax paid to the Aboriginals, reparations, compensation, or, as I heard one activist say, white Australia, you have not yet begun to pay, which is what Jacinta Price has warned us about on several occasions. The key revealing question, I don't know if you stayed up, I had my ear plugged in and I was listening to it for most of the night when they were debating the voice legislation. This was the enabling legislation to get the referendum up. Went till after 4 o'clock in the morning. I listened to parts of it. But the key revealing question Jacinta Price asked that morning while the House was debating the voice referendum, close to 4 o'clock. And she asked a very simple question which proves the voice has unlimited reach and unlimited power. Everything is in play, the senator said. Meaning, every issue, every debate, every decision, in the dead of night, Senator Jacinta Price asked Labor Senator Anthony Chisholm a very simple question. Are Aboriginal Australians Aboriginal citizens? Which is a pretty simple question, isn't it? The point she was trying to make was the point I've been making, that every policy issue impacts Indigenous Australians in exactly the same way, black or white, no difference at all. And to treat people differently on the basis of their race or their skin is racism, pure and simple. But let me quote Senator Chisholm's reply. No, I won't quote it. Let me give you a paraphrase of it. But look it up, you can. It's on Hansard. totally recorded. Senator Chisholm's reply suggested everything is in play. Aboriginals will be able to have a say on everything that is before the House. There you have it. Hansard, black and white. Just before 4 a.m. Look it up. Look it up. I don't think I'd worry so much about the world and Australia's place in it, except that we have brainwashed the next generation of young people, school kids. Because the left-wing teachers, who know nothing about the real world other than the crap that they were told about, they were indoctrinated, not educated. They push it onto the next generation along with climate change, political correctness, cancel culture. They will perpetuate all of this, not knowledge though, no knowledge. They can come out of school barely reading and writing. God help us and the country. When the national carrier welcomes people on board the aeroplanes, this was brought to my attention, by the way, from somebody making a comment on Facebook. Qantas welcomes people aboard the plane, not with destination Sydney or Melbourne, or welcome ladies and gentlemen, we're going to Brisbane. But you know what they say? Instead of Adelaide, we're going to Adelaide, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to Ghana land. We've gone to Ghana, we're going to Ghana land. We have certainly, absolutely, totally, comprehensively lost the plot. This wonderful egalitarian country, society, where everyone, black or white or brown or pink, has equal rights and opportunity to do the best he or she can, is at risk. I don't know what to do about this voice thing, but if we allow this to get off the ground, I am terrified for the future. But I don't know about you, Pete, but I'm encouraged by these polls that I see, people slowly coming to the realization that it doesn't fix any of the real problems affecting Aboriginal people.
Well, I think if people look at the Mayo, if they look that up...
Yes. No, you're perfectly right. Yes.
Right, yes.
What's his first name? Thomas.
Thomas.
Look up the Thomas Mayo thing if you can find that, if somebody can send it to you or send it out to as many people as possible. Ladies and gentlemen, I think that says it all. Thank you so much for viewing the Court of Public Opinion. Believe in yourself. I'm Jeremy Cordeaux. Peter Clayton and I will be back tomorrow. See you then.